around the team building season. So also if you're planning a team building for your organization, this will be the perfect time also to talk to us. Without taking too much time, Kevin, I see you already live. Karibu sana. Kevin is no stranger to us. And I'm excited. Yeah, I'm very excited to see how we will break down this big word called a strategic plan. Uh, Getting to the basics of reading it, challenging it, and even executing it. So over to you, Kevin.
Thank you very much, Purity, and welcome everyone. Yeah, and glad to have you back, and glad to be back as well, and to be training on this. They call it the monster called a strategic plan.
Yeah.
Today's topic is how to read, challenge, and execute a strategic plan. As usually, everybody feels a strategic plan is a reserve of the chosen few. So to enable us to be able to effectively tackle this, I have a quick poll there. You can use your phone, either scan that QR. I hope everyone can see the screen. So you can scan and just take that quick poll. I've also shared that quick poll as a link. Yes, I'm doing a sample size of around 50 for today. So let me even the screen. So you can just start by filling in that. Just scan the code or click on that link, and it will take you to that code. And let me see if people have already started entering in, and then I can in real time see the results. So I see already I see already 3 people are in. I've put in forward their responses. That's very good to see. Okay, 3 people are in. Okay, can just continue with the poll. It will allow me to a maximum of 50, so don't feel shy about it. If you're having challenges with the poll, let me know. So because ideally it should take you to something that looks like that. Does your organization have a strategic plan? So I see, okay, I see 9, 10 have said, okay, 11 have responded, okay. Yeses are more. So by a quick poll, I'll say most of us are aware that the organization have a strategic plan. You can move to the next slide. There's a slide 2. You can move to and answer the second question. How confident are you in reading and interpreting a strategic plan? Once you answer, okay. I see some somewhat confident. So we are the somewhat confident is taking a lead out of the 23 responded. You can see somewhat confidence. Let me just go back. Yeah. So, okay. So the somewhat responded are more. Okay. So that gives me, okay, an idea in terms of a response. We can move to the next slide. What, in your opinion, will be the biggest barrier to executing a strategic plan? Lack of clarity in objectives and limited resources are going neck and neck. Okay, I see the lack of clarity. Limited resources, lack of clarity. So, okay, for monitoring and follow-up. Okay, so lack of clarity in the objectives seems to be taking precedent. Okay. Okay, so lack of clarity. So I think 16 out of the 26. Okay, so perhaps I can move and then closely followed by limited resources. Okay. So you can still fill the poll. It's up to 50 respondents, so no problem. I'll come back to it. So currently, I'm guided by lack of clarity. Okay, maybe we move on to the next question. Which area should the training focus on most? We'll move on to the next question and see which area should the training focus on most. Okay, reading and okay, challenging and questioning assumptions, executing and monitoring initiatives, Okay, reading and understanding the plan. So neck and neck, challenging and questioning assumptions and executing and monitoring initiatives. Okay. Okay. Well, that works very good as a guide. Okay. Okay. I'm seeing, okay, challenging and executing. Okay, 19 out of 28. So that is above half of the responded. Okay, I'll come back to the same, but I'm still guided. Feel free to still continue filling the poll. Okay, 20 out of the 28 have responded. So I see challenging and questioning assumptions is one key area, and then closely followed by executing and monitoring. So execution and also challenging the assumptions. That's very good. Okay. So we've reached the end of the presentation there. So thank you very much for participating in the poll. Let me go back to my other screen. So thank you very much. Feel free to continue filling the poll. Like I said, it's up to but it's a good guide for me. So I thank you very much for that. So can anybody hear me by a thumbs up? Is my screen visible and can anybody? Okay, very good. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Cynthia and Diane. Okay, Monica. Okay, thank you. Beatrice, Ken. I see you all responding. Thank you very much. So, what will we learn today? So, by the end of this lesson, I expect that we will be able to, number one, understand what strategy is, challenge the strategic plan, whatever document that we might have as our strategy, to be able to execute the strategy effectively. That is, know what our role will be in execution of a strategy, and be able to execute it very well. To find out the tools that we can use, the tools that we can use towards implementing our strategy, even just monitoring our strategy, to make sure that we sustain our focus so that we don't lose focus, which is something we often find that sometimes we have a document we're supposed to implement, and at the point of implementation, we kind of lose focus and we go back to organization culture, which might be contrary to what our strategy will be. Yeah? Okay. So onwards to the first slide, and that is first and foremost in terms of we want to define what is a strategic plan. What is a strategic plan? And we've had previous training also in terms of strategic planning. So this is more or less a recap. And maybe even before I go to that, in terms of the reading, maybe I can put it on to you. Can anybody recall what it was defined to be from the previous training, perhaps? Or what the understanding of what a strategic plan is from the previous training? Anyone? Feel free to comment in the chat box or a show of hand, or even you can unmute yourself and just share in terms of what you learned if you are there present. Anybody who was there in the previous presentation or training on strategy? Okay. I guess none of us was there. Okay. What do you think a strategic plan is then? Yeah. What do we think a strategic plan is? Everybody? Sorry. Let me just sorry. Okay. So I'll move on to the presentation. Maybe it will serve as a guide for us. So the definition is a strategic plan is a high level, long term, usually a minimum of 3 years and a maximum of 5 years roadmap that defines an organization's mission, a vision, and values while outlining specific actionable steps to achieve its goals. I don't know by a show of hands. I see Judy Kaikai had mentioned it is a clear plan for the future, helps you to achieve your goals step by step, which is a very good thumbs up for Judy for that, or a hand of applause for Judy for that excellent contribution. So as Judy has mentioned, it is a plan. It's a clear plan. It should be clear in terms of, it should be clear to from the topmost person to, you can say, to the most subordinate person within an organization, to the low-level person within an organization. So it should be clear that first and foremost, everybody should know that it exists. Yeah, and then it's for a future. It's not on the past. It's somewhere you are headed to. So it can't always be based on this is how we are doing. We used to do things. This is how we continue to do things. It could mean there's a change in terms of where we are headed. And then there has to be goals that are stipulated that you want to achieve. So basically, the plan is high level. By that they mean it's all inclusive, and usually you'll find it's something that has to be even signed and vetted by the board of a company. To that extent, even directors of the company get involved in the plan. I don't know, by a show of hands, if anyone of you has ever been involved in preparation of a strategic plan for any organization. Teresa, you want to say something? Oh. By a show of hands, thumbs up. None of us has ever been involved in formulation of a strategic plan in our organization, or any. Abuta, very good. Faraz, I see you are there. So we have only 2 people who have been involved in the preparation. Okay, Julia. So those are 3. Okay. Doreen, number 4. Okay. So very good. So basically, at least you can see the challenge sometimes for organization is knowing who to help participate or to get involved in the process of developing the strategic plan. So sometimes you find that some of us are not too clear about what the roadmap is, but it's very crucial, as we'll come to see, to find out why we need to be involved in that strategic plan. So from that definition in itself, we've seen it's long-term, minimum 3 years, 5 years, preferably. There are some that say they have 10 years strategic plan, but why they put it to 3 to 5 is mostly because of the dynamics that can change. Yeah, it defines an organization's mission, vision, and values. So by that, it means you have to be very much aware. What is the vision of this organization? What is our mission statement? What are the values that you want to project in terms of whatever things you are doing? And then it outlines specific actionable steps so that we know these are the moves we are making towards specific goals that we want to achieve. So when you see somebody doing 1, 2, 3, you know it has to be either directed toward a particular goal. If it's not, then you know it's contrary to what your strategic plan is. Yeah. So far, so good. We are together. Thumbs up. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thanks, Dan. Gideon, I see you. Dennis, I see you. April, very good. Very good. So, notably, a strategic plan will have something that defines a long-term direction. So we've seen there, it has to be 3 years to 5 years. It can't be a strategic plan for a month or 2 months. You say, I develop a strategic plan for 3 days. Those are not realistic. So at least there has to be a long time frame. Why? It's because these goals are not achievable in an instant. So for them to be worth putting in a strategic plan, they have to be long-term goals. Yeah. So this has to be very, very clear in terms of the priorities and the resource focus. So by that I mean, it will show the priority of our organization. Case in point, I remember at one time there's a company and they decided that by a certain, in 3 years, they had one of their strategy was to make sure that at least 15% of their workforce are persons living with disabilities. So that will mean there was more active recruitment of persons living with disability. So because they wanted to show that the app for inclusion, they wanted to design the offices such that there's access for persons with disabilities. And so that meant that even their priorities came to working with partners who have like-minded goals. Even resources came towards bringing more access-friendly offices. That is, if it's issues of having ramps, the ramps that somebody using a wheelchair can use. If it's issues of their machines and are visually impaired, they had voice access, and other people had to learn, even their staff had to learn sign language. The non-disabled staff had to learn sign language, just in case they have got additional staff who are hearing impaired. So you find that more of the resources now in that strategy, if you are HR, for instance, if you have a training, they will be more open to trainings towards maybe issues of promoting inclusion, issues of learning aspects like sign language for all the staff. So if such trainings will augur well with management or senior management, even the directors, when it comes to a focus. So I don't know whether that example makes sense. And I don't know whether in your organizations, you've ever had a change of focus and you found resources move towards that. If you have, feel free, as always, to contribute in the chat box, or you can always put up your hand if you want to, and unmute if you want to give a verbal contribution. But I hope I'm making sense to that extent, that this is what we mean by now our priorities and our focus is now set for certain direction. Are we together so far? So far, so good? Yeah, if I lose you out, don't feel shy about putting it there. So another notable aspect of the strategic plan is it aligns organizations towards the goal. So that means that even the organization knows what they're working towards. So if you say our strategy, maybe we could be new in the industry, maybe we are a paid selling company, and we say we want to have maybe 10% of the market share within the first quarter. So, or 10% or 50% of the market share in the next 3 years. And then we divide that 50% of the market share within quarters. And we say in quarter one, this is the market share that we want. Cumulatively, quarter two, this is the market share that we have. So we can decide if maybe for quarter one, we just want just 5% because we're introducing the product. And maybe for quarter two of year one, we'd want to extend it further to maybe 6 or 7%, like that, until you reach to your 50%. So every effort that we're doing, even if it's marketing, it will be aligning towards our goal. So it'll be like, are we producing enough to even secure that market share? If it's aspect of the production, if it's issues of distribution, how efficient are we to make sure that we're reaching out to our customers in good time, that they get there? So even the driver within the organization who's in charge of, or the driver from the managers, they'll be looking at how optimally are we delivering whatever goods, whatever products, or whatever tins of or cans of paints that are being ordered by a particular hardware store. How efficient are we in terms of delivery? And if we are delivering within a certain route, are we operating at optimum? So everybody will know they're working towards that goal, that we don't just make sure that the salespeople work towards making sales, and then when it comes to delivery, we are not even supplying the products, or even production cannot be able to meet that demand. So that is one aspect of aligning our organization towards a goal. So everybody has a key focus towards that. So earlier in the definition, I'd highlighted or I'd mentioned what a strategic plan is. And in that, I mentioned something to do with, it has to be long-term, and it defines certain aspects of the organization, that is vision, mission, and values. So now I want to go back to go into greater detail of those key elements that I've mentioned earlier there, so that when you're developing a strategy and somebody says we're developing a strategic plan, you don't feel lost out when somebody says, what's the vision of organization? In the comment section, maybe, do we know the vision of our organizations? What is the vision statement of the organization by any chance? By a thumbs up. Is there anybody who knows the vision? Dennis, feel free to comment what the vision for your organization is. HR Till. The vision is well, so by HR, I think that's the department. Is the vision, now the thing will be, is that vision well communicated to our different departments? So I go back to our core elements of strategy, and one of them is the vision. So many of us, when I say vision, what do we get out of it? Feel free to comment in the comments in the chat box. When I say vision, what are you looking at? Is what mental picture do you have when I mention the word vision? Anyone? Hmm? Yes. When I mention vision, okay. So I'll revisit the comment later. So when we mention the vision, this is a forward-looking inspirational statement defining what the organization wants to be in future. Yeah. So the vision could be that aspiration that you have, and one vision for an organization could be maybe if it's a freight company, they deal with clearing and forwarding of goods. Maybe it could be their leading solutions providers in the freight or in the clearing and forward industry in the East African region to be the most, to be the leading. So that means you want to be ahead of the rest. So that could be a vision that you're having for an organization. So the vision statement sometimes is not well communicated to everyone within the organization. So that means people don't, if the people don't buy into what the vision is, it's very hard for them to also contribute in the strategic plan. Yeah. I see there Sarah Karaoke says aspirations of where we want to get to. So that's a good definition. That it's actually where we are thinking that in an ideal world, if everything works out perfectly and seamlessly, this is where we want to be. That is why we started. Mary mentioned that it's the direction of where the organization wants to be. Yeah, very good. That it gives a point of focus where the organization wants to be. So, it's that ideal situation where the organization wants to be. Gideon mentions it's the trajectory of the company. So yes, so it's the direction in terms of where everybody should be aligned to. So from the biggest person, that is from the directors themselves, to the support staff within an organization, they all know we are all aligned in our thoughts, and this is where we're headed. I remember there was an organization where after they were doing the strategic plan, the founder of the organization will go around because the founder felt they had spent quite a substantial amount of money taking people on a retreat, everyone within the company to do the strategic plan. So you'll be getting random question of what is our vision? He will be stopping people randomly within the offices and asking what is our vision, and you will have to, you know, tell him this is the vision that we had, and you just read out that statement. And finally, we'll find out that it's a mantra that we are now adopting. Once we say it, then we know what we mean. So when we are falling short of that, they will go back and review and see where are we. So can we differentiate with a vision? What our vision is from the mission? Do you know what the difference is? Yeah. Okay. Let me ask in another way. Are we ever, by a show of thumbs up, are we ever confused when somebody says this is our vision and this is our mission? Or do we know the differences? Has anybody ever been confused about those two statements? So we know the difference between a mission and the difference between a vision statement. Are we confused? Or they are all, or they are the same? My vision and mission are also the same. Yeah. Mission is focused short term. Okay. Yes, Irene. While vision is future focused. Okay. That's very good. That's a very good way to put it. Mary says it's the purpose of the organization existing. Yeah, that's the mission. This is why are we here? It's the why are we here? Yeah. The vision is where do you want to be? Yeah, the vision is okay. From why are we here so that we can get where we want to be? So it's the more of where we want to go. Now the mission is how do we get there? So thank you very much for those contributions. So the vision is it divides the organization purpose, what it does, who it. Basically, it's the how. It's how do we do this and that and that. This is the purpose of what we who are we serving. Okay, who do we want to work with in terms of to get us to where we want to be? Yeah. So by the person you are working with, what is the impact? So that when you impact, we know we are contributing to where we want to be. Yeah. So you can't have a vision of providing access and service to all, and that in your mission you're saying we are in your mission or in your acts we only see you working with the chosen few. You say, no. Before, I don't work with tall people. I can only work with people of a particular height. I won't say they're short. For me, this is the vision of, yes, we want to be best, but if being the best means waking up early and providing a good customer experience, no. I don't want to deal with difficult customers. I only want to deal with customers who tell me nice things. So that in itself will start skewing our vision, the probability of achieving our vision or why we're there. So future might look bleak based on the current things that we're doing at this time. It comes back to what I mentioned. It could be short term to achieve. So if you want our vision to be the best, then that means you have to provide excellent customer experience. So if you want to provide excellent customer experience, even resolving issues when it's getting, reaching out as many people as possible, irrespective of ethnicity, background, and all that, so that you can talk to more people and you can be the best in the business. Are we together so far? By a thumbs up. If I'm moving too fast, you can always let me know. Okay. I see green. Thank you very much for that feedback. Okay. So another element is objectives. And there's not just objectives, but it has to be strategic objectives. So what are the objectives we think about? When somebody says objectives, what comes to mind on a regular? Because sometimes you say objective in a context of you have to be objective. Yes. Myrene mentions it's a to-do list. Very good, because it could be a list of things that I want to achieve at a particular time or at a particular point in time. So I put them down and I say, by the time this week is over, by the time this year is over, by the time the 3 years is over, this is where I want to be. So now, I'm not just mentioning objectives, but I'm saying they have to be strategic, because we have a where we want to be headed. We have a goal. So that means even our objectives need to be aligned towards our goal. Yeah, they can't just be objectives that are somehow personal ones that are good to me, but they are hindering the organization. And sometimes you find that we have an objective, and our objective will be to make as much money as I can. But then part and the parcel of our goal is also to be a credible organization within our peers. That's what people, when they hear the name of organization, to know us for credibility and integrity, like a value system. Yet I am here taking 90% of the kickbacks is me who's taking them. I'm offering bribes left, right, and center so that my thing can move. So I'm not bribery and that. And yet one of our core values is integrity and transparency. Yeah. So sometimes there's a disconnect between what our mission and our vision are and the objectives that we have as individuals. So the objectives have to be aligned. So even sometimes you can say, as a company policy, we do not condone corruption in any form, or even as a whiff of it. Yeah. So yes. So Irene has specified further that it's the key business focus area, which is very good. So our objectives have to be strategic. And by that, I move on to the definition in itself, that they have to be broad long-term goals, define what we want to achieve, while short-term SMART objectives define measurable outcomes to achieve those goals. What do you mean by SMART? It's always a buzzword you hear around. And then you're like, how SMART objectives? And then somebody says, okay, does it mean it's the grammar in which or the sentencing of the... When I say SMART, what comes to mind? Basically, when I say that our objective also has to be SMART. Anybody? Yeah? Irene? Yes, Irene, your hand is up.
When you imply smart, you mean they must be measurable, attainable, reliable, and time-oriented. I can't remember the S.
Specific, perhaps?
Okay,
Uh,
specific, measurable, attainable, reliable, and time-oriented.
Time-oriented. Okay, very much. Makofi kwa Irene. Please, a round of applause. Okay, thank you, Sarah, Farah, Gideon. So yes, exactly that, Irene. Because sometimes we talk about them, and and Rebecca mentions it very well, that they should be attainable, reachable, time-bound. So attainable and reachable, you can use them also. As synonyms. So those are the things that we're talking about: specific, measurable. And sometimes when you have our objectives, they might not be too specific, they might be too broad. So we're told to narrow it down. Somebody gives us feedback to narrow it down, and we feel like it's becoming an issue because we feel like it's additional criticism. Why can't they just take what I've given them? Yeah. If you ask how do we measure, we feel like it's another headache being given to us. So why we put these as smart is so that they can direct our purpose and our focus. So that we could have, it's like eating an elephant. Yeah. Anybody has ever eaten an elephant here? Anybody? Am I the only one? So how do you eat an elephant, basically? Or how will you go about it? Yeah, Corazon. You've never thought, if you think about it, how will you eat an elephant? Yeah? Nobody? Even like real? Okay. So I guess I'm the only one who explores. So I show you the secret of it. Do you want me to share the secret of eating an elephant? Yeah? You want? Okay. Caroline is open to it. It's only Caroline who wants to hear the secret. Okay, I'll DM you. Okay, Sarah. Okay. So the secret of eating an elephant, you know it's what? It's one bite at a time. Yeah? Just one bite at a time. So I've given you the secret. You can go and share it out. So that is how you do it. If you want to eat an elephant. So it's the same way with our objectives. Well, if they're short term, we make sure that they're within a time frame so that we can make sure that we're not going for that whole goal, but we're starting with those small steps. And with each step, it's a journey of 1,000 miles. It begins with each step. You don't finish 1,000 kilometers in an instant. Yeah. So you take it just slowly. Yes, even if it takes a whole day, that one piece you just chew it slowly, and then you continue with the next. Yeah, eventually you'll get there. So it's the same way. You continue. Like Eric Omoni is a good example with his team, Sisi Kwa Sisi, and the works that he's having to raise funds for different initiatives that he has. He does it a step at a time, and you document as he's continuing his journey from Nairobi to Mombasa, for instance. It's not an issue of feeling that you pace yourself slowly, but you also put it within a time frame such that you can have at least a goal to reach there. If it's within a week, you say, okay, how many kilometers do I have to cover in a day? Okay, what is my speed within a minute? So, what's the average speed in an hour that I need to average so that I can make sure I do this thing within 5 days? So it's the same thing with eating an elephant. Okay. The other element is initiatives and KPIs. That actions towards goals and metrics for tracking the progress and measuring success in real time to enable success, enabling necessary adjustments to the plan. So for initiatives and KPIs, it's the initiatives are the actions themselves towards the goals. And then the KPIs are just those metrics for tracking whether those actions are helping us to get there. So if I'm eating my elephant over here, I will see, okay, I've taken my first bite. So by what time, how long does it take me to complete a leg? Then how long does it take me to complete the next leg? Then I move on to the torso. How long does it take? Then I move on to the steak, etc., until I reach the tail end. So that is the thing we will be looking at. But if my actions are not moving, if I chew one piece for a whole year, as Irene has put it there, for a whole day, but now if I'm exerting, then it means I'm not moving the frame that I might need to move. So at least I need to have completed a leg within a month. But if I'm still stuck on that one piece and I keep on saying I am moving towards that, and you find sometimes that is the thing, that somebody is doing a lot of things, but he's heading nowhere. Yeah, there's a joke that is told that, and no pun intended to people who have bottles and cucumber water. There's a joke that is told that in an office there's always that one person who has the big bottle of water and cucumber is in, and it's always been seen in different desks within people's offices. Shoot me, but it's just a joke that has been shared. Rebecca, you can relate, or are you the person? So you find that there's aspects of sometimes somebody is doing a lot, but it's not moving towards a particular direction, which is dangerous, because at the end of the day, if you're not tracking all that movement, all you do is you have 1,000 steps, but having achieved nothing in terms of the itinerary or the task list that you have been assigned to you. So I hope that analogy has put things in perspective. So onwards, I move to another key element, which is assumptions. Is that assumption something that we feel is necessary in the strategic plan? And why do you feel it's necessary? Because we're always told about assumptions. Yeah, you have to make your assumptions. As an assumption, why is this the case? Why is that the case? Anybody? Do you feel assumptions are necessary? First of all, by a thumbs up. If I see no thumbs up, then I feel that the assumption is something they just put there for consultants to look good and double you. Yeah. Yeah, Monica? Okay, so Carol. So we feel the assumptions are necessary. Good. So if assumptions are necessary, what are they in essence? If I ask you, well, what is an assumption? The definition is difficult. It's the thing you know, but you do not know how to define. Okay, I will aid you into that. So an assumption could be basically a pragmatic, skeptic view of what must be true for the plan to succeed. Yeah. So a good assumption right now is if it hits 5 o'clock, that you'll get into your matatu and you'll get home, especially in Nairobi. Yes, Jessica says it's a basis which you are making decisions. Okay, yes, it's the status quo. So you're saying this is the situation we're in. So that's why we think this is the direction we can follow and it will be good. Yeah, if right now the government is big on with the trade deals with China and it says that, okay, we are now exporting more raw materials to China. So for you, you will look at what products are going. Are there avocados that are going there? So in a strategic plan, if you are agribusiness, we will say maybe in the next years, we need to now focus more on hash avocados. If we have trees, maybe we increase the number of trees we have, an assumption that the deal will still hold in the next 5 to 10 years. Yeah. Monica says it's all factors are held constant. They call it ceteris paribus. All factors held constant. This is what we expect. So I was giving the example. You expect that when you board the matatu, you'll get home. And then what happens? 5 o'clock, the rain starts. Before you know it, there are floods all over. Before you know it, you have to swim through. So the assumption was we'll get home by maybe 7, or if you leave work at 5, 6 or 7, then there's massive traffic and all that. So the assumption is the rain will not hinder you are getting there. But when those circumstances change, of course, it doesn't mean your plan was flawed. It just means this was based on these existing circumstances. The Met Department did not say there will be extreme rains. But thumbs up, are we still together? Any questions? We're still together? Okay. Joy, April, Gideon, I see. Okay. Sawa. Thank you very much. Okay. Now, let me move to other aspects in terms of how to read a strategic plan. Now, when it comes to reading strategic plan, the focus usually is, can you read between the lines? It's not necessarily what is said, but it's now times to look at, okay, is there anything that we feel like it's not also being said and the like? So you have to read between the lines in terms of from what is just written there, but what is meant. And one thing in terms of reading through the lines is to identify what the priorities are. Yeah. So I'm giving you a strategic plan document. I don't want you to read it cover to cover like a novel. I want you to read it with a critical view in terms of to guide you and see, okay, are we is it being implemented? So the one thing I will say, for instance, is yes, identify priorities. So when I ask you, have you read the strategic plan? Don't tell me yes, because I read from page A, page 1, annex 3, 4, or subclause C says this and that and that. No, don't cram the plan. Because sometimes we feel like cramming the plan is reading the plan. You want to do it with an analytical mind. So first and foremost, identify the priorities. Pinpoint what are the main goals, focus areas of the organization, and consider what is important to achieve during the plan. As you saw earlier, when I started, I did a poll. We did a quick poll, yeah? And my intention for that quick poll was basically I wanted to see, okay, what are the areas of focus as we continue with the training, yeah? My aim was what are the areas of focus? First and foremost, I wanted to know, do we have a strategic plan? If yes, then I know majority said yes. But I noticed also there are some who don't. At least there are 3 who don't. So for these 3, it will be worthwhile to now approach them and tell them, okay, if you don't have a plan, then if you want to develop one, this is how you can go about it. For those ones who already have, now they can go and get their plans and now start looking at it based on the training on a critical level. So practically, so that you can say, okay, what are the areas of priority? So that if you have a head of department and they're always asking for certain resources to be given to you, yet contrary to what the plan is, now you can now start aligning your department towards what the main goal of the organization. We are together. Is it making sense? Yeah. Because sometimes you might be saying, when we procurement wanatuona, yeah, procurement are seeing, is it seeing for us? I mean, in English is okay. They have marked as English sometimes fails me, but procurement is marked as is discriminating. Let me use for lack of a better word, discriminates against our department. Because every time we ask for this and that, they don't give us. Yet, when we look at it, it's not a point of focus. For instance, we'll be asking for a corner office, and we are saying what we want to do is more of interactive space. So we want an open plan office. But for you are saying, I want my own desk, I want my own. And they are saying, no, we're having an open plan. Why? It's because we want to create a rapport where everybody can interact with each other freely so that we can share ideas when brainstorming very fast. So no issues of I have to go to 10th floor or get permit to go to 10th floor because I need a special card so that I can go talk to a different department head about an idea that we've just did right now. So there could be those other aspects of companies that you might be asking for and are contrary. Okay? Sawa. So, okay, another aspect could be understand what is not included. Yeah, we need to recognize activities or goals that are intentionally left out, showing what the goal is choosing, what the organization is choosing not to focus on. Same as up there. You might be saying, how come they haven't put my primary area? Yeah, for you are saying, okay, me, I want to. I have presented that this is my sales plan. I want to expand in this region, but then they're saying here we've already reached saturation because of the market share. So what you want, there's a potential market share in maybe the northern frontier of Kenya. You present more of your ideas towards moving towards the northern frontier in terms of, do you understand the culture? Do you understand the infrastructure? Do you even have support systems there? If it's maybe a software-based business that we have, is there a good Wi-Fi network there? If there is not, can you partner with somebody towards doing that? But for you are still focused on, there's this estate, I know it's a gated community within Nairobi, it's coming up, and I want us to go and provide our services there. Maybe it's maybe it's you are a Wi-Fi provider. But then within that gated community, they already have a pact or an agreement with another company to do the whole fiber within there. But you keep on insisting on throwing it there. But the organization is realizing there's another market potential here, and that is where we want to. So now you are focusing on go there, and you keep on badgering and saying, no, you guys don't want me to succeed. So you start taking it personally. But once you read the strategic plan, then you realign your focus towards what the organization is eyeing. So even your presentation becomes seamless and smooth. Does that make sense? Mhm. Or has anyone ever had that experience of you're pushing an agenda and it's shut down before you even finish a sentence? Because I know there's somebody, I know there was an organization I used to consult for, and I will tell them, there's this mobile telephone company that you should approach, give them helping you with your IoT services. Every time I will just mention them, it will be shut down. So I keep them on a regular to realize later on that they had tried that and they had a very bad experience with them. And they weren't very responsive. So they had totally shut down any talks with them. And that's what happens. You might not understand the dynamics of a region. For instance, if in Kenya, I know the dynamics in Kenya, but I don't know the dynamics in Uganda. So I keep on pushing an agenda saying, use this company, but I'm not sure of that dynamics. So as a consultant also, even for us, we are learning that when you're doing a strategic plan, know the dynamics and the stakeholders within. So even us as employees on strategic plan, we have to already know that that was thought of. So they didn't just come up with a document for no reason. Yeah. So it's good to find out why mine is not working. There must be a rationale behind it. Okay. And then finally, I will say, look at those surface assumptions. Yeah. And then we are saying, that the assumption is that these are the conditions that prevail. So it's good to look when you're there, you're reading the strategic plan, are those conditions still prevailing? Because if they're still prevailing, then that means whatever plan that you have there should work. If they're not prevailing, then it means if you decide to do something different, they should be open to it and tell them, okay, plan was made with this plan, this situation, but now the circumstances have changed. For instance, there are areas like in Kajiado County, and I think some parts of Turkana. You might have an agenda of maybe traveling to a certain, if you are in the NGO space, they sometimes have to travel for long distances to reach some of the clients that they work with. And if they went, and you always, if there's a storm, stay where you are. Because the flash floods can happen at any one time. Seasonal rivers can burst their bank at any one time. So it's safer to stay where you are, find out what the situation is before you proceed. So you might have, the plan might be within that week to do like 100 interviews. But because the storms are coming, then you have to slow your roll, so to speak. And you can put that as a challenge and say, when planning this, we assumed that this is a dry season, so we will be able to access everywhere. However, the rains have come and there are flash floods. So those have prevented access in various, people are marooned in certain areas, so we cannot longer. If it's going to do a base survey, we can't do that baseline survey at this point in time. So far so good, we are together. Have I left anyone behind? Is anyone asleep? If you're asleep, you comment in the section. I fell asleep at this point. I am now back. Yes, Teresa, I see you there, Wamboy. Yes, you're laughing, so you're not asleep. Okay, Wamboy, thanks for the claps. Okay, so I move on to now the aspect of identify risks and gaps. Yeah. So this changes between every sector, but this is also a key component of our strategic plan. And ideally, the plan is sometimes supposed to see what are those gaps that exist within, and then we fill them up. When I say gaps, by the way, are we understanding what I mean when I say a gap? Yeah. Maybe in the comment section, you can. What is your understanding of a risk and a gap and a gap within your organization? Mm-hmm. Because sometimes consultants use these terms very fast and then they leave you behind and they act like, and they use a lot of acronyms as well when they're doing the strategic plan. They start you, have you done your PESTEL analysis? And what did you find out? So from the PESTEL, now do you see the opportunities that lie within? Yeah. So sometimes we throw in those acronyms and the term. But when I say identify a risk and a gap in this context, are we clear on what it means? Yeah. Are we clear? No? Doreen is thinking. Okay. Okay. So the risk could be potential threats. Yes, Gideon is saying. And the gaps could be the weak spots. Okay. So weak spots. So should I call them weak or just call them challenges? Sometimes in your organization, do you find that there are challenges that might hinder you from particular goal? let's be specific, maybe in a department. Yeah. Have you ever experienced a challenge and you felt like, if only I had this, I could be able to achieve this? Yeah. What is a challenge that you felt that exists in an organization that prevents you from achieving maybe a goal? It could be sales, maybe. For instance, in a sales department, you could have one. HR, maybe. Financial constraints, yeah? Yeah. There's always limited resources, but there's an abundance of need. So yeah, thank you, Mwalimu. Mwalimu Juma. He says financial constraints. Yeah. So for instance, that could be the thing, that we don't have the finances we need to be able to execute something, or we are not being allocated the proper, or we have the budget allocation, but the funds are not being released to us. So that's a good one. And then the risk of the potential threats, as Gideon has put them out there, the threats that we don't see coming. Yeah. And sometimes it could be even the market competitors. That there's a competitor who's coming very fast. They have the finances, they have the funding, so they're coming to hinder or to take a cut out of our market share. Yeah. Winnie says openness from superiors. They hide a lot of information. Okay, I'm laughing because they tell you it's on a need to know basis. There's an organization where you find the CEO does not know who he or she has given which information. So sometimes it's even information that they shared and it was mainly something negative about you, and it's now being shared with you by them, not knowing that it's you she's talking about. Okay, wrong prioritization of resources and allocation. Yes. Mwalimu Juma says it very well. Judy mentions it's risk, something that might go wrong in future. The risk is something, so the risk is something that might go wrong in the future, and the gap is something that is missing right now. Very good. So risk is probability or threat of a negative occurrence and loss or danger. So we all converse on networks. So that's why I'm saying the strategy sometimes is for all of us. We see that these are not things that we are not aware of. They are always in our environment. They're always happening around us. And sometimes the risk for HR department is staff turnover. They're like, if you lose a particular employee, hey, that one, I don't know how we'll recruit somebody because he has all the knowledge from the start of the organization, and it hasn't been shared out yet. Or he's a very resourceful person. So when it comes to issues of that, yeah, Winnie also mentions non-compliance, and right now you can see regulatory authorities, especially KRA, is very big on that. It's following up on people when it comes to the for the deductions. Are they compliant with housing levy deductions, the pay, because the government is in need of. So thank you very much for those contributions. In the strategic plan, that is one key thing we should look out for, because those were the things that will hinder us from achieving what we need to. So you might be given that this is the goal we need to do, but in your department, maybe those risks and gaps weren't brought out, or if they are brought out, then they need to be addressed. So we can have capability gaps, and one capability can be areas where the organization lacks the skills, systems, technology, or expertise needed to successfully execute a strategy. Yeah. So you find that maybe you need a particular resource in there, maybe issues of compliance. I don't know whether there's anybody in the banking or financial sector. I know they have this thing when it comes to Kenya being grey listed, and they talk about compliance. And there are people called money laundering. I don't know. Is it money laundering and risk officers? MLRO. I hear that buzzword when I wrote. And I didn't know how serious it is, because they're the ones who flag transactions. They're the ones who say, can you declare your source of funds? That's why in the Forex, you're always giving your ID when you're changing dollars to Kenya shillings and saying, where do you get the money from? So for the longest you can remember, you just take your money and then you'll be given. You didn't even have to submit some of your documentation. So those are compliance around, and CBK is big on that. So you have different organizations have different issues around compliance as well. However, now you need skilled employees to be able to tell you this is a risk area. So if you don't have that skilled employees, so you already have that gap. For instance, if it's the banking industry, they don't have that skilled MLRO. So who can tell them this will be flagged by CBK, and we'll find issues in terms of penalties for the bank. So if they don't have that in Malaro, that means that you have already placed yourself at a risk of non-compliance, and by that virtue, you are going to lose out. So even if you are aiming to be profitable, the fines themselves will do you in. I hope that makes sense. Or you are now seeing it between from that, and you can be able to buy certain things in your organization. Celestine, thank you very much. You're saying, well, a gap is the space between two things. Yeah. So it's like you need something to be able to get you to that other side. So it's the same thing. It could be a resource. It could be either you don't have the software, like if you're using Windows 95 in this day and age. Yeah, so I'm sure your machine is finding it very difficult to do a lot of things. Yeah, you're there just struggling around things, and maybe the expertise. There's new technology that are coming in, but you're not being taken for the training. Yet you are told we have a. Can you adopt it? Especially right now with online systems where somebody says, for us to be able to achieve this, somebody says, you get a departmental head who says, let's purchase or let's subscribe to this software, let's move from this to the other, and you're not adequately trained. So that will not help you in terms of achievement. Financial constraints. Yeah. These could be limitations in available funding or resources that may hinder implementation of planned activities or achievements of goals. This is a relatively self-explanatory that you're always told we don't have a budget, but you're told to deliver the moon and the sun. And then the gadget they give you is a very big one. But the lesson learned here is with what you have first, show them what you achieve, and then tell them. But if you can give me, if with 20,000 I was able to bring in this in terms of that, I was able to do activation, and we were able to get this number of people subscribing to our business. We're able to do a roadshow. These are the number of people we're able to get in. We're able to give out freebies, and these are the number of people who are now aware of our product. And you can see if it's an app, these are the number of signings we have. Yeah. So if you can get that, and I think betting companies are the best at that sometimes. They throw a lot of money towards marketing so that they can get a lot of people betting, and so they can make that profitability. So those could be certain aspects. Sometimes you have to spend money to make money. And then there's now external risks. Those could be factors of the organization, either economic changes, competition, regulations, which we mentioned even earlier. Sorry, I think my screen is overheating for some reason, so don't mind the camera. You'll see me in a filter. It's not deliberate, I promise you. So sometimes it overheats and it comes to that. So those are the external factors that we are saying. Yeah, beauty. It's not a filter. Yeah, so those are the external factors that come up that could negatively impact the success. So that could be new regulations that maybe make it very hard for you to operate in the market and make it very easier for others to operate. It could be issues around maybe competition, and sometimes even unfair competition, that you find that a certain product is because it has the favor of the government or the regulators than another. So those are aspects of risk around. I haven't okay. Feel free to comment if I've left you somewhere or you are sleeping. Okay, so by a quick recap. So we've looked at what a strategic plan is, the core elements. We've looked at them: vision, mission, initiatives and KPIs and assumptions. We've looked at now how to read the strategic plan, identifying our priorities, understanding what's not included, and what are the surface assumptions. And then from that, we've looked at, okay, how do we identify those risks and the gaps based on when in their plan? Are they the situation also on the ground? Do they, kwa ground vitu ni tofauti, so to speak? Are the realities on the ground different from what is being said in the strategic plan? So that if they're not relating, you can know. Because there's a strategic plan that is done by professionals, and then there's a strategic plan that is done for the organization. Professionals, they just come with a template, you have a budget, and then they give you a document. But for the organization, you actually see it also reflects what is on the ground. So we have identified the risks and gaps from the capability to the financial to the external ones. And now we want to see what is the role of executives in challenging the strategy? Why I put this here sometimes, have you ever done a report, one of your best reports, and then you take it there, and all of a sudden you start getting feedback? Feedback just lets you, puts you in a state of, I wish singefanya your report. Has anyone ever experienced that? Or what is the most negative comment you've ever had after you thought you had done? Monica, you're saying 100%. It must have been a recent case. Has anyone ever done something and they got a comment that just demoralized them totally? Yeah. I give a case in point. When I was starting out, I was working for an insurance company, insurance brokerage. The chief.
Hi, Kevin. I think we are losing you. Let's give Kevin a minute to rejoin back.
Okay, you can hear me? Thumbs up.
Much better now. We had
Much
lost
better.
you a few minutes ago. Yeah.
Okay. I think I'm in a zone where sometimes the Wi-Fi is fluctuating. So in case you can't hear me, just let me know. So I see it was at 12:06. So yes. So sometimes the feedback can be right, but whoever is giving it, we already feel like they're negative. But in a strategic plan, sometimes we also get a lot of that. You get a lot of feedback, and it comes mainly from the executives. So even in the strategic plan, even if you have participated in it or you are the one who gave contributions to it, don't feel bad, because that is the role in terms. Sometimes you even have to be the ones who challenge the plan as people who are going to implement it. Your feedback, yeah. Planning process, ensure the strategy aligns with the organizational mission, governance standards, and overall direction. So don't let an expert come and tell you this is what you need, and yet it does not reflect anything within your organization. Because if it's not realistic, then it will be hard for you to implement, and therefore you will be rudderless, or you will not have a direction. As we said earlier, if you have a strategic plan, it's supposed to give us a point of focus, a direction. We are supposed to all be aligned. But if it's neither here or there, people will start saying, that is the plan for this and this department. For that one, we give it to operations. For that one, let's give HR. They're the ones who know what they did there. Yeah. So another key aspect is to ensure realism. Yeah. That the questions, assumptions, plans to confirm they are practical, achievable, and supported by available resources. So it will be based on what is actually on the ground. It should not be something unrealistic or fantasy. Or somebody should not just bring a plan from somewhere and say, change the name to ACCUREX and say, this is now the ACCUREX strategic plan. Because sometimes you have situations, I don't know whether we ever experienced something where somebody just brings you a template and all they're changing is the wording. And sometimes they don't even go to the extent of changing the wording. You still find things that are still belonging to the previous organization that they shared the plan with. So industries can be similar, but they're not the same. We have different organization cultures. We are together still? Yeah, thumbs up? Or has the filter gone to the microphone? Kenneth. I look forward to meeting some of you in person, because I want to relate the faces to the comments. Okay. And then add strategic perspective. That is bring high-level insight. Yeah, that is to bring high-level insights, experience, and broader view of the environment to station decision-making and long-term. We're in the industry, we know what the industry entails. So sometimes we have plans that are not realistic with the situation on the ground. Somebody might be saying, you guys made 1 billion. For me, I want to make 2 billion. But 1 billion was made of our course of what period? And is it realistic for somebody to say within the next half year, 6 months, we'll get 2 billion worth of revenues? And sometimes we find that new departmental heads sometimes like to overpromise. So when you're challenging, you can also play the executive role of challenging it. We're not playing it, but we're just saying, okay, let's see. I'm looking at this plan. Okay, what is the planning process? Is it conversant? Does it reflect the mission, governance standards, or the direction where we want to head as an organization? So, that is good. Okay. Okay. Is it realistic? Are we able? Do we even have the resources to achieve this? So to achieve 1 billion, we had to have this number of employees working for this number of hours. This guy says they want to get us to 2 billion. So what ideally do we need in terms of number of employees, in terms of machinery, if it's a production plant, to be able to produce even the equivalent that you can sell to get to that amount? Is the market share even going to get to that amount, or is it already saturated? Otherwise, we start forcing products on clients who have already been loyal and they've already reached their maximum. So I'll give an example of a utility company that is working with water meters. They are selling to this organization, which is a private, and they only have 1,600 consumers that they are supplying water to. So after selling 1,600 meters, start telling them, continue to buy, because they're already saturated. So move to another market. So if you already have secured that market segment, don't keep on shoving it down the throats of your clients so that you can reach your 2 billion mark. And then next is this is high-level insight, and it could also be for us telling them what we know on the ground to direct even their insight, because the insight might be theoretical. It might be based on ideal situations or what they think is happening, but the reality might not be reflecting that. Yeah. Monica said some of the executives have advanced the idea of being unrealistic, overly ambitious in the strategic plan. How do you ensure that there is a balance such that we don't target, but we also we don't under target, but we also don't over target by the end of the 5th year? We are not even at 50% of the KPIs. Very good feedback. So when a plan is over ambitious, yeah, it might be too intimidating to even start implementing. So I hear you. And we are going to come back, we are going there to a slide where we are going to address that issue. However, in a nutshell, just to answer you, Monica, is we need to be data-driven. Yeah, we need to be data-driven. It needs to be realistic in terms of what is the situation of the ground that we're able to achieve whatever we're able to, so that we don't overpromise and then under-deliver. Yeah, because sometimes I was given some targets in HR without budget allocation, 3 years in no budget. So it's also good to see, okay, what are you able to achieve based on the budget you have? Yeah. So current budget, what is it at? And where is it going to? And are those the priority areas? So if they say that these are the other priority areas other than what you've been budgeted for, then it needs to be realistic for HR to tell them. Then if it's recruitment of resources, for these priority areas, we'll need 1, 2, 3 things. Like the case I give of the company that wanted to reach 15% of their staff to be persons with disability. It means that they had to invest in infrastructure. So if they had to invest in the particular recruitment of those personnel specifically, they had to invest in resources that can be utilized or even technology that can be utilized towards supporting those staff. So you don't want a staff coming and yet we don't have our lavatory facilities or our toilets are not access friendly. Then it beats logic of saying we want to reach 15%. So sometimes it's good to have that realistic conversation. And it's not a back and forth debate. It's just presenting the things as they are, hoping that it will be amicable. So sometimes those challenging the strategy is an aspect of that strategic perspective in terms of insight experience. Yeah. I don't know whether I've made sense there. Monica, have I helped in terms of giving you a response? Still vague?
I can, Kevin.
Yes.
Thank you for the opportunity. So the response is good, but
Yes.
the reality on the ground.
Yes.
Just a minute. So what I'm facing is a target like implement the staff exchange program.
Yeah.
And you're looking at international organizations.
Yes.
I do not have budget to support the staff to go.
Okay.
Yeah, and I work in a government institution, so we rely on the government funding. And the funding that comes because of austerity measures is basically just the personnel emoluments. You're getting the salaries only.
Okay.
Yeah, so you don't have even enough money for training. How are you now going to get, even if you decided it's priority number what? It is not in the priority number what when you're actually now getting the budget, the final budget.
Okay.
So, yeah.
So the finances is not guaranteed. It's limited because it has to be disbursed to you. Just to get you right, Monica. Yeah, in case I've lost. So because it has to be disbursed, and at the point of disbursement, the allocation is not sent to you. Another area is deemed more of a priority than you, but you are still told you need to achieve 1 and 2, 3 things. Am I still getting you okay in that regard? Okay. And then it also involves international travel. And this budget was given full, and then there's aspects of per diem and stipend, I know. Passport. So there's those other support services, just so that they can be able to attain whatever training is there. Am I still spot on? Okay. I haven't worked in government, but I have worked with government in certain partnerships. And one of the things I know is there's aspect of, I'm not saying that it will work always, but there's aspect of private-public partnerships. By that I mean, where we have development partners who are always open, because there are some development partners who already have funding towards, especially when it comes to staff development or human resource development. So I don't know whether within the section of government you're working with, have a resource organization office, or if you, as Monica and the department you are in, have you have the, what is it called? Is it the authority? Have the authority to approach funders who are already big on funding such initiatives, because it could be scholarship programs, for instance, or it could be short trainings or workshops that they have, and it could be a development partner. For instance, I know somebody like, just to mention, and not to put anybody on the spot or to sideline anyone, like I'll just use an example of JICA for sometimes when they work with government on a particular sector, they don't mind sponsoring certain programs that will help them towards that sector of theirs. Yeah. So sometimes those are the things we have made some proposals with development partners. Yeah. So those are the things that I'm saying in terms of you can be development partners like JICA, but even locally, there are even companies that